The story of Othniel, a biblical tale of leadership and deliverance. Othniel, a hero of the Bible, is one of the lesser-known figures in the book of Judges. His story is one of courage, obedience, and divine purpose, marking the beginning of the cycle of judges who led the Israelites through their time of turmoil and foreign oppression. Othniel's story, though short, reveals much about God's providence, faithfulness, and the importance of righteous leadership. This story will explore the life of Othniel, his rise as a leader, and his role in delivering Israel from oppression. The setting of Israel's unrest. Israel was in a dark time. After Joshua's death, the Israelites were scattered throughout the land of Canaan, living in different tribes and regions. However, they had lost the unity and strength they once had under Joshua's leadership. Over time, they fell into a pattern of sin, turning away from the Lord and embracing the practices of the nations around them. They worshipped idols, neglected the laws of God, and lived in disobedience. As a result, God allowed Israel's enemies to oppress them. For a time, the Israelites had peace when they followed God, but when they strayed, foreign nations invaded and subjected them to cruel rulers. It was in this time of darkness that Othniel, an unexpected hero, would emerge. The oppression of the Israelites. For 8 years, the Israelites were under the oppressive rule of King Cushan-Rishathaim of Aram. He was a cruel and powerful king who kept the Israelites in submission, forcing them to live in fear and despair. The people of Israel cried out to God, pleading for deliverance, but their pleas seemed to go unanswered. The cycles of sin, oppression, and deliverance were repeating. In the midst of this chaos, there was a man named Othniel. He was a man of faith, a warrior, and a leader from the tribe of Judah. His story would begin in a place of both personal loss and divine calling, setting him on a path that would change the fate of Israel. Othniel's lineage and early life. Othniel's life began with a strong lineage. He was the younger brother of Caleb, a great warrior and one of the 12 spies who had been sent into the land of Canaan. Caleb was one of the 2 men who remained faithful to God and believed in the promise that the land would be theirs. Caleb's boldness and trust in God were legendary, and Othniel grew up in the shadow of such greatness. From a young age, Othniel was trained in the ways of war and leadership, inheriting his brother's courage and devotion to God. But Othniel was not just a warrior, he was also a man who knew the importance of following God's commands. His heart was aligned with the will of God, and this would prove essential in the days to come. The marriage to Achsah. Othniel's story takes a pivotal turn when he married Achsah, the daughter of Caleb. Caleb, seeing the dire need for a strong leader to step forward, made a bold offer to the Israelites. He promised his daughter Achsah in marriage to whoever could conquer the city of Debir. Achsah, known for her beauty and wisdom, was a woman of great character, and this marriage would be a union of both physical and spiritual strength. Othniel, with a heart filled with valor and faith, accepted the challenge. He led his warriors into battle against the fortified city of Debir, and through God's strength, they overcame the city and its defenders. True to his word, Caleb gave his daughter Achsah to Othniel as his wife. This act of bravery and loyalty to God marked the beginning of Othniel's rise to prominence. It was not just a victory in war but a testimony to Othniel's commitment to serving the Lord. In marrying Achsah, Othniel also received a portion of the land and set the stage for his future leadership. Othniel's call to leadership. But Othniel's story would not be limited to victories in battle. The time had come for Israel to be delivered from its oppression. After 8 years of suffering under King Cushan-Rishathaim, the Israelites finally cried out to the Lord for help. God, in his mercy, heard their cries and chose Othniel as the deliverer of his people. God's Spirit came upon Othniel, empowering him to lead the Israelites. With divine strength and wisdom, Othniel gathered the people together and called them to action. His leadership was not born of pride or personal ambition but from a deep understanding of God's will. He led them to battle, relying not on his own might but on the strength of God. The battle against King Cushan-Rishathaim. The battle against King Cushan-Rishathaim was not one of mere military strategy, it was a spiritual battle. Othniel's army, though perhaps not as numerous or as well equipped as the enemy's, was fueled by God's promise of deliverance. With the Lord's guidance, Othniel and his warriors marched into the heart of enemy territory. The war was fierce, but God gave Othniel the victory. He defeated King Cushan-Rishathaim and liberated Israel from 8 years of tyranny. The people of Israel rejoiced, praising God for his deliverance through Othniel. Othniel's victory over the Arameans marked the beginning of a season of peace for the Israelites, lasting 40 years. This period of peace was a testament to God's faithfulness and to Othniel's righteous leadership. Othniel's legacy. Though Othniel's reign as a judge is not extensively chronicled, his story is rich with lessons. His life was characterized by humility, trust in God, and courage. Othniel's story is an example of how God uses unlikely heroes to fulfill his purposes. He was not a king by birth or a military genius by reputation, but he was a man who believed in the power of God and was obedient to his calling. For 40 years, Othniel judged Israel, ensuring peace and guiding the people back to faithfulness. His influence continued to shape the nation, and his story became a reminder of the power of God to deliver his people from oppression. The cycle of judges continues. Sadly, like all the judges of Israel, Othniel's story also illustrates the recurring cycle of the Israelites' spiritual journey. After Othniel's death, the Israelites once again fell into sin, and they were oppressed by new enemies. However, Othniel's leadership and faithfulness served as a foundation for the future judges of Israel, and his story continues to inspire those who follow God's call. A story of faithful leadership. The story of Othniel, though brief, speaks to the heart of God's faithfulness and his ability to raise up leaders in times of need. Othniel's life reminds us that God's deliverance often comes through unexpected channels, and that true leadership is rooted in faith, humility, and obedience to God's will. In a time of spiritual darkness and moral decay, Othniel stood firm in his faith. Through him, God brought victory and peace to Israel. And while his story may seem small compared to the other great figures of the Bible, it is no less significant in showing how God uses even the most unlikely people to accomplish his purposes. As we reflect on Othniel's life, may we be inspired to trust in God's strength, to lead with humility, and to remain faithful to his calling, no matter how great or small the task may seem.